This video on FPL TV is very proudly sponsored by OneFootball. With a rating of 4.8 out of 5 from now over 100,000 reviews on the App Store, OneFootball truly is the biggest and best app for football news, scores and stats from hundreds of leagues all over the world. As for FPL, you can choose to follow every team in the Premier League on OneFootball and then get live updates from all the goals and assists every game week. Download it now completely free using the link in the description box below. Hey guys, and welcome back to FPL TV. Before looking ahead to this weekend's double game week 22, let's see how the side performed in that very long and drawn out game week 21. With Mo Salah heading off to the AFCON this week and having to face a tough trip away to Chelsea in game week 21, the decision was taken to sell him one game week early and hope that his replacement Son could outscore him in that nice fixture against Watford. In the end, both Son and Salah scored last week, essentially cancelling each other out. But for the longer term, this was still looking to be a solid move, with Salah now missing the next few game weeks, whilst Son meanwhile has an upcoming double game week in 22. Unfortunately though, this move did end in disappointment, with Tottenham since playing in the Carabao Cup and Son picking up an injury, now ruling him out for this upcoming double game week, a week that he was most likely going to get my captaincy armband. Due to Son's injury, in the end, this transfer did feel a pretty wasteful one, although what this move did do is release enough cash in the bank to then upgrade King to Antonio for a -4. And that was something I felt I had to do after that late announcement of West Ham's double game week in 21. Initially, I hadn't planned on buying Antonio, and was more than happy to keep King, who has an upcoming double game week of his own in game week 22. However, once we found out last week that West Ham would have a double game week consisting of Palace and Norwich in game week 21, I felt it was too good of a double game week to pass up, and I simply didn't want to head into a double game week of that nature without him. Antonio did score against Palace, but I certainly expected a bit more against Norwich, and although he scored 7 points more than Joshua King did last week, therefore giving me a 3-point gain on the hit that I took to bring him in, I'd still hoped for a bit more if I'm honest. And a 3-point gain may not be enough to warrant the transfer, because with Joshua King's upcoming double game week now against Newcastle and Burnley, it's looking like it may have been more profitable to hold on to him. Only time will tell. Taking that hit for Antonio meant I had a triple up of West Ham players for this tasty double, including the captaincy on Jarrod Bowen, who's been in absolute top form this season, and that was no doubt the defining moment of my game week. It was Ronaldo or Son who were my initial captaincy shouts, but that late double game week announcement for West Ham then made Bowen a no-brainer, and that worked out sensationally with Bowen delivering a huge 21-pointer. Truly classic double game week stuff. Unfortunately, there wasn't as much luck for budget defender Ben Johnson though, who only appeared for a total of 45 minutes over the two fixtures and also got booked, ending the double game week on a 0-pointer. And this is where I lost out a bit compared to other managers last game week, who instead had the likes of Soufal, Dawson or Diop, etc. Aside from the West Ham double game week, there was little else to report from the game week really, with my captain Bowen papering over the cracks of some poor performances elsewhere. It was a very poor day at the office for United against Wolves, whilst Dennis of Watford was frustratingly subbed at half-time. Rafinha also blanked last week in that favourable fixture against strugglers Burnley, despite Leeds putting 3 goals past them, and although it's likely I'll hold on to Rafinha for now, especially with a home fixture against Newcastle in game week 23, he's certainly a player edging closer towards an exit from my team, especially with Aston Villa's new signing Coutinho priced similarly, and that puts Rafinha's Brazilian counterpart immediately on my radar. To be fair to Rafinha, he has scored 3 times in his last 6 appearances, but all 3 goals have come from the spot, so I'd still like to see more from open play if possible. Either way, he'll be given a bit longer to impress. Elsewhere, there were returns from both Jota and Trent last week in that superb 2-2 draw against Chelsea, but like I've said many times, this pair are so heavily owned that returns from them offer very little in terms of ranking. Much better to own them than not though, of course. So for game week 21, my team ended on 76 points with a -4 hit, so 72 points all out. When Bowen produced that 2-goal display against Norwich as my captain, I really thought I'd hit the jackpot here, but in the end, it turned out that he was so heavily captained amongst the managers around me that I actually saw very little progress from his monster score. So despite receiving a 42-pointer from my captain, 72 points all out incredibly wasn't enough for a green arrow last week, dropping just a small 3,000 places from 64k to 67k. It's a bit disappointing to not climb the ranks when your captain goes as big as Bowen did, but it's like what I said about Trent and Jota earlier. Even if you don't profit from the points much, it's certainly much better to have captained Bowen than to not have. And those that went for an alternative like Antonio, for example, will certainly vouch for that one. So let's look towards Game Week 22 now, and look at how my team currently lines up, as well as some potential transfer moves. Also, if you do enjoy the content here at FPL TV, then be sure to leave a like and most importantly get subscribed. You can also hit the notification bell so you always know when a new video goes live. Before discussing my potential moves for Game Week 22, I want to stress once again that we head into another game week with still a lot of uncertainty regarding postponements. Also, according to Double Game Week guru Ben Krellin over on Twitter, we could still receive news before Game Week 22's deadline about a potential double Game Week 23, and depending on that news could certainly have a bearing on the plans I'm about to discuss. So, as has been the case for the majority of this season, I'll be holding my transfers until the very last moments. Now, when Game Week 21 started around 2 weeks back, the initial plan back then, looking ahead to this Game Week 22, was most likely to make a complete U-turn on last week's transfer, and bring Joshua King back in for Antonio, with Watford now themselves having a very appealing double game week against Burnley and Newcastle, not to mention a home fixture against Norwich then to follow in Game Week 23. However, at the moment, lots can change in FPL in a very short space of time, and since then, my squad has now picked up a lot of injury concerns along the way. So, although I'm still considering to bring Joshua King back in ahead of this nice double game week, regretfully, it's likely I may have to focus my transfers elsewhere. In fairness, sticking with Antonio wouldn't be the worst option, because his single game week fixture at home to Leeds is also a potentially fruitful one, and although Josh King does have a great game week 22 and 23, I do prefer West Ham's fixtures for the longer term. I've also already got Dennis anyway, so perhaps the double up could be overkill if they did happen to disappoint. Another positive reason to transferring King back in, however, would be that it would then give me an easier route to bring Mo Salah back once he returns from the African Cup of Nations. And that is something I'm constantly keeping in mind when making any of my future transfers. How can I get Mo back immediately once he returns? Which could be sooner rather than later, with Egypt starting their cup campaign disappointingly. Amongst my squad, I currently have 6 players flagged, but regarding the ones flagged at 75%, Alexander-Arnold, Ronaldo and Dennis, I'm hoping all 3 will be okay. And because Son and Reece James are the longer term injuries, they are the ones I'll likely have to focus my transfers on this week. The strange part is that because of so much uncertainty in FPL at the moment, and also because not many teams have a particularly enticing double game week in 22, there's not many options jumping off the page to replace them right now. In terms of replacing Son, the most likely double game week replacement for me would be James Maddison at Leicester, who's been in terrific form of late. But I'm still wary of Leicester's COVID and injury troubles, and that's what's holding me back slightly. As time has dragged on through this long game week 21 though, I have begun to consider Bruno Fernandes, but he would simply be a short double game week punt and simply serve as a placeholder until Mo Salah gets back from the AFCON. Maddison is half the price, in better form and producing much better underlying statistics between the two, so all signs point to him being the more sensible option than Fernandes. The other positive with regards to Maddison is that he does have the potential to serve me as a long-term option as well, whereas Fernandes would always be a much more short-term move. For me to be considering Bruno Fernandes, perhaps it's just nostalgia starting to kick in, because Bruno has not been a good FPL asset for half a season now. But I have to say, regardless of all that, I still find myself tempted, because at the end of the day, it's a double game week for a player that only a few months back was considered an absolute must-have in FPL, and he is also a nice differential punt until Mo Salah returns. The alternative to these, of course, is simply hold Son on my bench and wait for the Egyptian King to come back. As for Reece James replacements, well, Tottenham's Reguilon was looking to be a very straightforward swap. But with him missing from the League Cup semi-final in midweek, there's still concern about him and his fitness. For this reason, his teammate Emerson Royal comes into my considerations, who is a bit cheaper, and interestingly, if I do downgrade Reece James to Emerson Royal, that does release just enough cash to then upgrade Son back to Salah in the near future, which certainly makes this transfer a lot more convenient. The last double game week defender in my consideration this week is Tariq Lamptey, and he's a budget option that I do like for the longer term as well, with Brighton having some excellent upcoming fixtures. But as is always the case with Lamptey, it's his fitness and injury record that's a bit of a concern, as well as Potter favouring to rotate him, so no guarantees on Lamptey's minutes. Much like I said about Son, the alternative once again for me is to wait until next week to replace Reece James, and then look at the likes of Laporte at Man City or Luca Digne at Aston Villa, both who have a great run of fixtures from Gameweek 23 onwards. For the captaincy in Gameweek 22, before Son's injury, it was almost certainly going to be handed to the South Korean. But with him then confirmed out for these two fixtures, I immediately moved the armband to Cristiano Ronaldo. However, since doing so, Ronaldo has too been flagged as a slight doubt with a muscle problem. And that's what I'm waiting to hear more information on, with Watford's Dennis now too a strong consideration for the armband. In terms of underlying statistics, Ronaldo is head and shoulders above Dennis, with CR7 averaging a lot more shots and importantly a lot more big chances than Dennis per 90 minutes. But stats don't always tell the full story, and looking at the form recently, Dennis no doubt comes out on top, and Watford's fixtures against Burnley and Newcastle in this double game week are certainly more appealing. It is a tough one between these two, because as things stand they're both flagged, and neither are guaranteed to play both games, so it'll certainly come down to what information we can receive before the deadline. Looking at the form and fixtures though, and considering that Dennis has at least been pictured in training, I've currently moved the armband onto him, but there's no guarantees it'll stay there. Ronaldo does have penalties in his locker, and will more than likely have a higher volume of chances than Dennis will should he play both games, so this is something I'll be weighing up until the deadline. So that's everything discussed regarding my team and potential moves this game week. And as mentioned, there's still plenty of things up in the air regarding future double game weeks, fitness updates and match postponements, so any of those things could have a bearing on what I decide to do with my team. As always, I'll post my final team over on Twitter shortly before the game week deadline anyway, so if you are interested to see what route I take, then you can do so over there. Good luck to you all for the upcoming game week, FPL responsibly, and I'll catch you all very soon.